Hello, assalamu alaikum. It's 9 p.m. on time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Harith Iskandar, and welcome to another episode of What's Going On Malaysia. How's everybody doing? I hope you are well. We are going to be having an explosive episode tonight, I guarantee you. First of all, housekeeping. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me clearly and if you can see me. I will be following you in the comments right here. Oh, there we go. I'm going to have to turn this down. This was my phone, which I had actually been watching a little bit earlier on. I'm going to turn down the volume for that. Guys, obviously you can hear me. If my phone can hear me, you guys can hear me as well. How's it going? Sharp, sharp, like sharpener. I like it. Guys, we are going to be fresh on the comments. I'm going to be looking at the comments. I'm going to be sharing the comments. I am going to be all over the comments tonight because I know you guys are looking forward to this. I have an amazing guest coming up. Just to show you that I've got the comments, let me show you. Your comments will come up on screen just like this. Philip Pinto says, yes, can hear. Uma Naidu says, thanks for being on time. What else? Micheline Netwa says, sounds like I'm in a tunnel. Is it? Okay, I'll see what my tech guy can do. Catherine Raju says loud and clear. Guys, I am so excited about tonight's episode. I have a very special guest on the show. One of my favorite people, actually. I first met her, I would say maybe officially properly met her about 3 years ago while I was doing my program, obviously Harith Iskandar, which was a talk show on Astro Awani. But before I get there, I almost forgot. Guys, can you please do me a favor? I would very, 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 very much appreciate it if you shared this Facebook Live. Share it on your Facebook right now. Let's get as many people watching as possible. I am also on YouTube Live. If you are a YouTube kind of person, let me check out what's happening in YouTube. Lynn Eric says loud and clear. Jivanan Jadran says all good. MP Khan also says too much echo. You know what? I'm going to get my tech guy working. A couple of people have complained a little bit about the echo. Zain Solo, who was also watching last week. Thank you so much. Why you look so young, Harith?
He's always young.
My wife says I am always young. Ha! All right, guys. Wow. Okay, I tell you what. Are you ready? Are you ready? I would like to before I invite my guest, I want to play a little clip for you, which was this was a prelude to the appearance of my guest, Tan Sri Rafidah Aziz, on the show officially Harith Iskandar. Before I did the show, I officially went to her house. This is a true story. I went to her house to pick her up, and I was a little bit nervous and I was a little bit scared because she has a bit of a reputation as, very strong, formidable woman. And we shot a little clip as I was driving her, and I found the clip online. So I would like to play this clip. It's only about 3 minutes long. You will see whatever you see in screen, how scared I was, is actually a fact. Although it turns out Tan Sri Rafidah was a wonderful, wonderful, and very friendly lady, but I was scared. What can I say? I was scared. So guys, just watch this clip, and then we're going to bring her right into the Facebook Live studio as soon as we can. I'm just going to add this to screen. Watch this clip, and Tan Sri Rafidah will be with us Okay, wait, hold on a second, guys. Whoa. Apparently, the video had no sound. I need to know, guys, could you hear the sound on that video? Check, check, one, two, three. Why no sound? Oh my God, there was no sound in the video. Oh my God. Is that right? You couldn't hear a thing? Suspended you. Well, okay. You know what? We're gonna skip straight through it. We're gonna bring in the lady in question. She is in the studio, but she has Tan Sri Rafidah. I just need her to on her camera. I can see her in the studio. So guys, I'm just gonna wait for Tan Sri Rafidah to on her camera right now. She is working from home like the rest of us, but I don't know why that video wasn't working. Okay. You know what? Tan Sri Rafidah is here. You know what? Let's just get started. I'm going to bring my very special guest. It is my absolute honor to introduce her to you, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Tan Sri Rafidah to the studio. We've got to get your sound on now. Check 1 2 1 2. Tan Sri, can we hear you? I think we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, brilliant. We can hear you. Thank you so much. Welcome to What's Going On Malaysia. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm fine, but I'm sweating. It's a very humid day.
It's almost been crazy humid. Let's not even talk about the political scenario. Just in general, the weather has been incredibly humid.
Everything else exacerbates the weather.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? So, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. The first time we officially met, or we met and we spoke for a long time, was on that video that was over 3 years ago. I don't think I bumped into you once or twice since then. But how have you been doing during this MCO? Are you well? Is your family well?
Yes, I am. Being locked down, but my mind is not locked down, so that's important.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that, because I have to tell you something. Out of all the guests I've had on this show, the moment I announced that you were going to be on the show, my comments and messages were blowing up because everyone is so excited. And so we are happy that your mind has not gone into lockdown.
Yeah. So our mind should not be locked down.
Absolutely not. I totally agree with you. So let us jump straight into this. The topic of tonight are the 3 C's, which is not what everyone thinks about of the 3 C's, but you have come up with your own 3 C's in your latest Facebook post, which you spoke about the 3 C's being COVID-19, corruption, and confusion. So let us start with COVID-19. You know what? Who cares? I don't care where we start. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, ask me something.
There we go. I can. Okay. You know what? I've had so many questions coming from the audience, but I'm going to ask you something. Here is what I want to ask you. In your Facebook post, you said COVID-19 confusion. I'm going to start with confusion. So you were obviously upset about the confusion. What did you mean by confusion? What is confusion in your mind happening right now? What is confusion?
It started when we had this government that came in through the back door, a government that wasn't voted in by the people, by the voters, right? So to me, there's a confusion already. First confusion, so nobody knows whether that government is really. I wouldn't say not legitimate. What I'm saying is that it was not what the people voted in for. And after that, when we had the COVID, there was a whole lot of confusion about the management of the COVID pandemic and all the things that had to do with the COVID. And as you know, there have been so many policy statements, there have been so many announcements of measures pertaining to vaccination, pertaining to who's able to get vaccination, where, what, and so on. And it's like a daily show. You know what I mean? Every day somebody makes a statement. And then sometimes statements are made in the day. And by the evening, somebody else is countering that statement. So the confusion to the rakyat can be very tiresome because people do not know what exactly is being done or will be done. In fact, today, the extension of the lockdown, again, there was a confusion, you see. So that's what I mean by confusion. And during these times, we cannot afford to have such confusion. So it's so important that well, I always hate it when you're already about 15 months down the road to talk about this. But as soon as we had the COVID, those who were already installing themselves in the seats of power should have got into the recovery mode, management mode, meaning that, right from the start, the moment you see the pandemic is already taking effect in the country, in the region, then there should be a comprehensive plan as to how, one, to address the medical side of it, in other words, the vaccination side, the treatment side, and so on. But more importantly, or equally important, is management of the impact of the COVID, social impact, economic impact, impact on people, mental health, on education, on everybody, impact on people who have no fixed incomes, on small businesses, even the big business. So, to me, that should be a parallel track of management of distribution. At the moment, there is no such parallel track. It's like as though we are moving from one phase to another and waiting to see what happens. And then we announce it. Tomorrow we'll do this, next week we'll do that. That is where the confusion lies. I'm not used to doing work like that, you see, Haris. So, very difficult to understand it.
I totally understand. Before we just get into anything, does your daughter happen to be there? Can I ask you or her to can you just tilt down your camera just a little bit, because at the moment we are just seeing. Um, we'd like to see a little bit more of your absolutely amazing and radiant face talking about confusion. I think that
There it is.
there she is. I know she's a technical person.
Sorry.
Wonderful. That is perfect. That is
Okay, all right,
absolutely
all right.
perfect. Thank you very much. You
Okay.
know what? I think I had prepared like 10 questions for tonight. I think one question is enough already. You will just be taking away the whole show. I just wanted to ask you just now, because you just mentioned right at the end, you are not used to confusion. Here is a hypothetical question lah. So, misalnya, let's say all this COVID-19 happened during the time when you were Minister of Trade, and during those, the that time of the era. Do you think this might have been handled differently? And let's be honest. Of course, it was a different time then. We did not have the internet. We did not have social media. How would you have, like, when all of this blew up? How would you have handled it back in
Well,
the day when? Yeah.
we don't have to have a theoretical approach to it. We don't have to say misalnya. There's no need. Because during the financial crisis, although we didn't have any epidemic then, but during a pandemic rather, during the financial crisis, things were quite serious. And the way we handled it was that we were in crisis management mode. I remember the Prime Minister then, Dr. Mahathir, had a small committee of people serviced by the relevant professionals, whether it is from central bank or from the government, who met every day. Now, can you imagine? We met every evening at 5 o'clock at his office, and we then every day evaluated what has happened from the day before. And during that 24 hours, new ideas came in, and we were monitoring the impact of what measures were put into place, such that we were always having a very tight rein on what we were doing to get through the situation. And that alone allowed us to plan short term, medium term, and long term. Now, for example, when I was a member of the committee, because we met at 5. So what do I do between 8:30 and 5? I had dialogues with all the private sector representatives to find out how the financial crisis was impacting them, how the currency situation was really negatively impacting our businesses, our importers, for example, because the ringgit had fallen so badly, as also the currencies of the region. As you know, that crisis was triggered by the collapse of the Thai baht. So when we had, for example, my part, I had every day for 5 days a week dialogue with every subsector of industry. We were able to get feedback as how people were being affected. So within 2 weeks, we were able to know comprehensively which sectors of the economy was impacted in which way, to what extent. And during that time, we were able to put into place the various measures. We had the revitalization, recapitalization of banks, dana moda, dana harta, all that. But unless you do this, you're not going to see things in a bigger picture. You're going to have piecemeal. It's like jigsaw puzzle. You don't see the big picture. You just try to fit in the little pieces of jigsaw puzzle. This is what's happening
Okay,
now.
let me ask you. So you don't think that what you've been talking about, you don't think that's happening now? You don't think that's happening in the machinations of the current,
I
government?
don't. I don't think so. As I've said earlier, judging by the off-tangent statements made by people in the same cabinet. One morning different statement, afternoon. In other words, there is no comprehensive look at how to move forward, not just on a daily basis, but during the pandemic, after the pandemic, and longer term. Please, we shouldn't wait until this whole thing is over before we start planning. Plan now. And most
Yeah.
important, this parallel track is very important. While we vaccinate people, while we have the lockdown, must make sure that things are going to be implemented on a parallel track and moving forward. That will allow the economic recovery to happen. That will allow people who are not yet vaccinated to be fully vaccinated, and most importantly, to make sure that the economy starts going again. Now, unless you see this in a parallel track, you can't. You can't do that. So today, vaccination is the key. But even that, we are still doing it ad hoc. Every day I get news in the media to say, today this state will do this, today this district will do this. Why don't we have a full picture so that the government plans it to say, all right, starting Monday, every district will vaccinate in situ, meaning that don't get the old people to come. Go to the DO's office, go to the bandar, Dewan Bandaraya or whatever you will call Dewan Orang Ramai, things like that, orang asli. Go to them, don't expect them to come out. So this can be done, but unless you plan it to the minute detail, it's not going to happen.
Uh, I, I agree with you in that one point. What I feel personally, the one thing that's missing is, yeah, you tell me, okay, lockdown. Then 3 days before we're supposed to open, you tell me lockdown another 2 weeks. For me, what's missing is, okay, lockdown till when? And if then what happens? Plan A, plan B. Do we open? Do we not open? If we do open, plan like at least from a businessman's point of view, from an entrepreneur's point of view, from a livelihood point of view, then I can have a resemblance of planning. Now, we were supposed to be open on the 14th, and today is what is it? It's the 10th, 11th. 20, yeah. Now we are okay. 28. It's like, yeah. You know what? I think we were all expecting it, right? Frankly speaking, I was expecting it as well. But I want to know what's next. Okay, kalau kita buka on the 28th, then what's next? That's all I'm looking for.
This is a question everybody's asking. What next? But even without what's next, we see this lockdown sometimes are not effective. There are people who continue to violate all the SOPs. In fact, those people are supposed to be showing good examples, for example, the ones who make all these rules, the ones who are up there in authority, they are the ones violating. Those so-called influencers, they're supposed to be influencing for good. They are violating for all kinds of reasons. And the rakyat is seeing this. And you get a poor guy in a restaurant gets fined, I don't know how many thousands of dollars for eating with his family without the mask, whoever eats with the mask, okay? Then you get somebody who goes travel intra-district, crossing boundaries. He gets off scot-free. And so this is a very irritating situation. When you have a lockdown, lock it down. You say you lock down the house, you lock every door and you lock every window. Here, you lock down the door, but the toilet door is open, the kitchen window is open, So, I'm sorry, I have to be very sarcastic because it's happening every day.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know what? Okay, Tan Sri, I'm gonna use some words here. You know what pisses me off is that, yeah, you're absolutely correct. These people on the street are getting fined 1,005 or whatever, and then when a more recognized person gets fined, their answer is, tak apalah, fine me. I don't mind paying the fine for myself. I'll pay for my bodyguard. I'll pay for the car salesman. But that kind of attitude really irks me because, yes, of course, you can afford to pay the fine. That means in your head, you're like, you know what, I can drive from here to Penang and back, and I'll just keep on paying the fine because I can afford it. That's not the point. The moment you break the SOP, you are endangering lives. Not, I can pay the fine. The focus is on the fine. I'm
No,
sorry,
the
I just went a
focus
little bit
is a
there.
violation of the SOP. We should never apply multiple standard. They say about double standard. I say multiple. The higher standard is it's okay because you're so and so. The second standard is, well, we'll charge you the minimum. Then the lower standard that people apply across the board is your court pay up. So that's not good, and the people are not going to be very happy with that kind of multiple standards of enforcement. So
Uh,
that's confusion.
It is confusion. Listen, there are so many comments, so many people have been asking things. I'm just going to bring up one question right now. Everyone who's watching, please, 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 please share this Facebook post, share this Facebook live. It's going off the hook. So Sargun and Raj says, thanks with so many issues going on and with the new dilemma of a new PM and so on, we the people have been taken for granted. Do you think it is Malaysians are just ignoring what is happening, or are we giving up on politics? What do you think,
Oh,
Tan Sri?
far from it. I don't think so. People are not ignoring it. In fact, they're very upset. Just that not many are online like me. Being happy to talk. Some are not online, but believe me, they're talking out there. And of course, they're not giving up politics. They are saying we have to do things in order to make things better.
Okay, I agree with you because the very fact that right now we've got so many people tuning in, I think a lot of people are still very much interested in what's going on. Okay, I was not planning to ask you this, but let me ask you this. What do you make of the recent activities over the last couple of days of all these? Duli Yang Maha Mulia Agong has been meeting individually with different political players. I know I can't ask you, are there any secrets out there because so many thousands of people are watching, but what do you make of all of this? Is it
Well,
going
I'm
to
not
suck?
privy. I'm not privy to what has transpired in those meetings with our Agung and whoever was invited. No. I'm
Yeah,
not.
good. Yeah,
I'm
good.
not. But suffice to say that probably the Agong wanted to know their feedback on the emergency and so on. But I gather that the most of the people in this country would like to know, one, was the emergency really necessary? Because as it turns out now, emergency or no emergency, things would be exactly as it is, except that the emergency has closed down the parliament, has not allowed parliament to move. And that to me is a big breach of that invoking the emergency. Meaning that you don't have an emergency in order to stop people debating in parliament about how much you spend, how much you're going to take out from the National Trust Fund, what you're going to do with the money, where you borrow, blah, blah, blah. Financial management, accountability, and governance. That is no longer being questioned in parliament now. Even the Public Accounts Committee is not meeting. So if the parliament is meant the emergency was meant to do that, it succeeded. So parliament is not meeting, even though you've installed all those partitions and so on in order to make it a viable physical situation for debate. Still no debate, and they say that if you are vaccinated twice already, you can have a debate. Still no debates. You see, so again, I'm always inclined to say it's a political emergency because somebody or somewhere here is afraid to go back to parliament in case there's a voting, a vote of no confidence, for example. That's what people are saying, and I agree with them. So
I
the
think
emergency. So we have to separate what we needed or really focusing on COVID without invoking the emergency. That has a lot of repercussions, which is really collateral damage, I would say, to democracy itself. So now let's go back to the original situation where we have controls over movement, controls over mass gatherings, but effectively controlling it. That is the most important. But today we have to manage the COVID pandemic in the best way possible. We can't do that, when people are thinking about why is Parliament not on, why are the violations still going on, because we're not focusing. So I would like to say right now, go full force in getting the vaccinations done, go full force to get the vaccination to the rakyat, so that people are confident and happy that the vaccination is being done and it's reaching them. But in the meantime, don't sit still. Continue with the business of governance. I'm scared because if the country is not being governed properly, we might find that at the end of the COVID pandemic, we might be, in a position not able to even bring this country back to the level that we were before COVID. Let alone rise higher.
Just as I'm listening to you, it seems like a lot of doom and gloom as well. I absolutely agree with you. The vaccination process has got to be somehow. I mean, just from a layman's point of view, I understand the upsetness. I understand the anger at the seemingly slow vaccination. I have heard that it's also a matter of the supplies not coming in and all. The people I've met, the civil servants I've met when I went to get my vaccine, absolutely tip-top. Everybody was working hard. Everybody's working as fast as possible. I'm really happy to experience that. Do you think there's any way that we could do this better? I mean, I know you may not be privy to what's going on in the current government, but okay, let's start with perhaps just one or 2 points or a couple of minutes on what we'll get to what is going wrong. What do you think at the moment is being done right? Like what is working, if anything at all? If anything being done.
I'm not testing them or anything. You look at what's happening was a result, right? This thing is not yesterday. This pandemic wasn't last month. The vaccine stock is not about last month too. Vaccines has been talked about from the beginning, remember? So we've had this 1 year almost to discuss how much to order, how much, when, and where the distribution should happen. Why are we still talking about bringing in more? This is already June 2021. We started April 2020. So why was the planning so long?
Okay.
Imagine if you just order today, it will come maybe the end of the year because other people already booked those vaccines,
I agree with you. What I heard, what I have read is that the bigger countries, the more powerful countries, were buying and hoarding, and it's difficult for the smaller countries like us. But I don't know how that all works. You are minister.
Let me stop you there. These other countries had the foresight to order a lot because they want to cover all their population. We didn't do planning to cover. We know 30 million people. Of 30 million, how many of what age group? All right. If we know how many are the vulnerable, and then the next sector, the ones who should be vaccinated as well, we should order roughly that amount. But if you order in drips and drabs like this, even almost 1.5 years, or rather 15 months into the pandemic, we're going to have trouble. So don't blame people for hoarding and so on. That's like being a dog in a manger, We should have planned early and we would have got the vaccines now. What were we doing? We're busy with all kinds of politics.
Yes, we are busy with all kinds of politics. You have just answered Angie Chin's question. Tan Sri, if you were still in politics, what would you do differently in our current situation? Well, number one, you would have voted earlier. I think you have just answered that. Do you think it's? Here's my question. I know you probably get this question all the time. What would you do differently? You've already talked about that in terms of accountability and planning and stuff. But is it more difficult now that the Rakyat knows every single step that you're doing via our WhatsApp and our social media?
Yeah.
We almost know what the government doing straight away, which was not the case back in your day. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, first thing I would say that the person at the highest level of authority should actually have very, very regular eyeball to eyeball meetings, And of course, now you can have virtual, but still, I'm watching your eyeballs. And this is to monitor step by step to the minute detail what's happening. As per the pandemic, as I've said, all the measures, the enforcement, and on a parallel track, the planning, how to ameliorate or mitigate some of the negative impact. in fact, how some of our business sector can actually benefit from what's happening elsewhere. And in other words, have a total picture of what the multifarious impact of this pandemic has been on our country, on the people at large, or the education system as well. So we have ministries. Check with the Minister of Education. How has this 1 year of stop go education has resulted in the productivity of our students, has resulted in students not being able to catch up. You know, losing 1 year of education is bad. Again, the small and medium enterprises, how many have gone out of business? Our big industries, hotels, tourism industry, how much have they been impacted to the extent that not only have they been forced to retrench people, but assets have been sold. You know, they're closing down businesses. So this is not something you can pick up as soon as the pandemic is over. It cannot be. So some subsectors have shrunken. Now, is somebody doing analysis on this? Because you cannot plan without analyzing. This is what's happening now. You know, you plan today for tomorrow, but you didn't analyze the impact. It's like I always mention this. You know, there was one time when it was said you cannot travel in a car, 5 in a family, right? Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can travel in the tourist bus with 34 other or 40 other strangers. That's fine. You see, nobody thinks about the ridiculousness of it all, right? So
I think,
analysis is so important, Haris.
No, I agree with you. I mean, from a layman's point of view, and I'm really a layman.
I'm a layman too, okay? We are all laymen. There's no God's men here. We are all laymen. Unless somebody is think they're God's people, I don't know. We are all laymen, okay? Stop saying you layman, I'm layman. We are all laymen. There's no God's men here.
Although there are some people who consider themselves a little bit closer to God, if you know what I'm talking about.
I know. They can jump in the ocean.
No, but you're absolutely correct. I'm not okay. Let me rephrase it. I'm not a scientist. My wife is a scientist, but there seems to be a definite lack of analytics or science behind some of the decisions. Like you say, when I saw like, for example, now 2 people in a car. I have a family of 5. We are together every day in the car, in the house, but I cannot go out with one of my children because that will be 3 people. But I'm at home all the time with them, rather than, do you know what I mean? So logically, I understand 2 is easy to count, 3 is easier. Oh, berapa orang dalam kereta? 2 orang, 3 orang. Oh. But yeah, science and logic and analytics seems to be occasionally missing in some of the decisions.
No. It's common sense that's missing.
Okay,
when common sense is missing, then all these other faculties are weak. When you don't have that kind of common sense, you stop analyzing, you don't analyze. When you don't have common sense, you don't think through things that you do. When you don't have common sense, you don't even realize the repercussions, the impact. There are always 2 sides of the coin, all right? It's good for announcements, but it's not good for practice.
Yeah, but actually, I mean, to be fair, it's okay. Here's what irks me. Every time there's a new SOP that come out, berderet, berkolom-kolom, banyak-banyak, ada PDF file and all, and then like, number one, it seems to me like someone really likes writing so much.
Haris, you don't have to talk too much. Do you know the essential list? They call it essential. What do you call this? Essential premises list or whatever. Just go through it. Find that some of them hardly essential. They're luxury products. Shop that can be open. You know, the ministry give permission to open, and then you have a real small SME shop thing. Somewhere there cannot. You see, they can't even get it right. What's essential and what is not. That alone is a lot of problems. Let's go to the.
I know. I'm sorry. I just need to apologize. Yes. I think the line is breaking up in a couple of places. But anyway, wow, we've got so many people. I'm just going to handle Uva Raj's question. Do you have any plan to come back? At least on advisory role, which they will listen. We need brains. They don't have it.
Well,
Uh,
I'm a retired person. Yeah.
yeah, retired.
I'm
Well,
retired.
itulah dia.
I, I'm I'm like any of you. Quiet. My mind is not roadblocked. I don't have a long mind. I'm working. I'm observing. I'm observing all of you about what's happening, what's not happening.
You know what? Have you been vaccinated? That's you.
No, I haven't because I have a very, very serious allergy to antibodies. So the doctors have
Oh,
advised me that, yeah, because that allergy it would kill me rather than COVID, you see. So that alone is, yeah. So for now, unless something crops up that doesn't need the antibodies, for the moment, I should be very careful. So I cannot be
okay.
vaccinated.
Okay, I'm going to jump into we've spoke about the COVID-19. The first C was spoke about the confusion. The second C. Uh, let's jump into the third C, the three C's that you have mentioned in your latest Facebook post. Corruption. Now, okay. Before you begin, let me preface this. Corruption of any sort has been around in my memory, for quite a long time. However, I think from your Facebook post, you declared that it is now almost becoming SOP, if I'm not mistaken, reading your Facebook post. What is your take when you say corruption
Yeah.
is one of the three C's? Please, and I know you can take the
Well,
stage. What is going
corruption
on?
taken in a very objective context. It's been there since time immemorial. I think since human beings were in the world, put into the world, corruption in whatever form started thousands of years ago. Yeah. What I'm saying is that today, every day almost, we hear news about somebody being arrested, somebody being questioned by MACC, somebody is going to court. We have these endless cases of people who are accused of doing this, that, and the other. The one MDB case still going on. In other words, while we have this pandemic, at the same time we have this a pandemic of corruption that continues to happen. And it is so important to remember that while before corruption was actually aberrations in society, where there was a corruption case, two corruption, three corruption cases, people went to the courts and they got jailed. Always happened. But now, I mean, people, it's like a part of the culture, which makes me very sad because when it becomes no longer an aberration, but rather part of the social norm, like a transactional politics. Let me introduce that. When politics is a quid pro quo, to quote the people,
Okay, Tan Sri, I think your line is dropping. We might be missing a few of your wonderful observations. Okay, yeah, I think we lost about 30 seconds of what you just said. Can you hear me clearly now?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. There you are.
Oh, okay.
I'm here, but yeah,
There you
yeah,
are.
okay. I think
Okay,
the
so
weather is
I
bad
think we
up there.
lost you. Yes, it is. We lost you at about where you were talking how it's almost becoming institutionalized. Or do you feel it's different now? I mean, okay, let's just use the word. How percentage wise, do you feel the level has changed drastically in terms of corruption?
I wouldn't say level, but it has become more pervasive, and it is sad that because when you have corruption of any form or any degree for that matter, in any level of bureaucracy, even within the private sector, there's going to be a cost to the nation. It's going to be a cost to the nation, and it's going to be resulting in all kinds of negative impact. We know that corruption itself is something that is the antithesis of good governance. Corruption is the antithesis of efficiency and productivity. So when we have corruption happening, and we don't know about this until it's brought up in the public media, right? That's how we know. When we have all these court cases, it really bothers people. Why is it that at every level somebody is doing something that shows there is a lack of integrity in governance, there is a lack of responsibility and accountability. So I hope that this is something that we can address. And to me, it's not like having corruption already there and trying to address it. Let's start with the next generation. If this generation is already beyond redemption, the young generation should be nurtured the way that we were nurtured when we were young, about the importance of being honest, the importance of really having integrity.
Okay, I've got a point of view that if the person above you or your senior or your boss is not corrupt or does not involve themselves in corruption, then you are less likely to. However, I have a certain feeling that the entire ecosystem in any body or establishment is almost, it seeps in. So if you are the one who is not corrupt, you may not be able to climb up the ladder, so to speak. So I agree with you. Yes. Yeah.
Harry, I think it is important that anybody who makes decisions at whatever level, whether it is a government or private sector, never put yourself in the equation. The problem with us humans today, especially when you are in a situation of being able to make decisions or a position of authority, if you put yourself as a factor in any equation when you make a decision, that's when you go off tangent. In other words,
Give me an
for
example.
example, okay, if I do this, what do I get? If I do this, what's in it for me? You see, that's where you factor in. But if you take that me out and say, okay, if I do A, B, C, the pandemic will be over quickly. If I do A, B, C, I can do it very efficiently and without much cost. If I do it X, Y, Z approach, then this country will recover quickly. Things like that, Don't factor, don't say, okay, if I do this, what happens to me? If I open the parliament, will I get a vote of no confidence? Things like that. That's when you factor yourself in. But today, this is when you allow yourself to be a factor in the equation of any decision making. Well, that's when corruption, there's room for corruption to come in. And corruption is not about just taking money, there's so many other ways of interpreting corruption. So suffice to say that it is, breach of your own authority and trust. That's corruption itself.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, I just listening to you, I get a sense of how do we, given, okay, let's say what everything you're saying is fact and is true. Who or how do we pull ourselves out of this? It almost sounds like we need to wipe the slate clean because, in my opinion, it's become part of the system. Let's talk about corruption. It is actually part of the system.
Well, if you say that you are giving up, then we don't have to have a discussion. If you say it's part of the system, I say it should never be part of the system. I would say that there will be people who go off tangent. Let it be an aberration. You know what I mean? And you take action. But it should not be part and parcel of the culture of the country. It's when it is entrenched as a culture, that's when it's like, you have to do a castration, you have to do amputation to get rid of it, right? It's not just one bad black mole on your face, yeah? It's like a whole body has full of warts and carbuncles. So you have to kill the body.
My God, my. You know what? I agree with you. We should not give up. I'm actually part of this group where ex-Malaysians are in this group and they're living in another country, and I'm in their WhatsApp group. And Malaysians, especially when we're overseas, like to bitch and complain. But in my head, I'm like, listen, if you left, if you gave up and left, you don't actually have a right to bitch about the country. So you're right. I personally am not giving up. I know a lot of people are not giving up, but I also totally agree with you that the next generation has to tackle this head on and make corruption an aberration rather than the norm. And it's tough.
No, not to make aberration, not to make it. You don't purposely make it as aberration. It's to say that when it happens, it is only an aberration. One case, 2 cases, 3 cases. It's not like you expect everything to be, having corruption seep into the system. That's wrong.
That's okay. Fair enough. I take your point on that. Let me put you on the spot here because I saw a lot of people were asking this question, and I just want to throw it out to you. Who do you think should be PM? A lot of people were asking this question. I can't pick one person out. Who do you think should be PM?
No, I think that's not the right question to ask of anyone. We have a
Okay.
democratic system, right? Go back to the parliament now, and then if they want to have a vote of confidence or no confidence, let them have it. And then whoever gathers a majority of the votes for support, go back to the king and say, this is the leader that has the majority support. I mean, it's not for me, for you, anybody to say, we want this, we want that. We are a democratic system.
Fair enough. I think. I
Unless we
think
go
that's
for general elections, right? I'm talking about before general elections. I'm talking about during the interim period before general election.
yeah. You're right. Right now, we cannot have a general election for the obvious reason.
We
So
are
the
not even
Democrats.
having parliament. Don't talk about general elections. Parliament is not even sitting.
Oh my God.
And you have G7 meeting now in Europe.
And then,
Yeah, the G7 is meeting. I mean, people continue with governance, They don't stop governing all over the world. But here, we stop governing. We work by the day. That's what it puzzles me to know.
that no, fair enough. Fair enough. Especially since all, if not some, or not, if not all of the ministers have had both the vaccinations. Uh, they should
Exactly.
be able to, yeah, they should be able to sit
Yeah.
in parliament. Okay, let's just say, let me put you on the spot here again. Let's just say parliament is open and then they take a vote and it is status quo. Carry on as per with Tan Sri Rafidah in the prime minister's seat. And then,
I
Abdul,
tell you
how?
what, Haris, let's not preempt anything. Go open the parliament and let's see what happens. C'est la vie. That's life.
Yeah.
You cannot stand the heat. Don't be in the kitchen.
Ooh, don't stand. No, you can't stand the heat. Don't be in the
Right?
kitchen.
Anyone who cannot stand the heat, don't be in the kitchen. Don't try to be a chef.
Okay. Hey, let me ask you this: out of the current crop of people currently in the government, be it opposition or government or whatever, can you name me two or three who impress you?
No, I don't want to name names. Suffice to say that the Prime Minister was my former student in the 70s in the university. I taught him, in the first year, as was Anwar. Yes,
Yeah.
really. In the
And
70s, I was already a senator. They were just first year students, and I taught them. So all those vying to be prime ministers were my students. So
what about the ones who were not around during your time, like the younger ones running around today? Well, I would say younger, are still younger than me at least. But like for me, I believe there are good people. There are good people on every side of the divide, and it's such a divide now. But anybody impresses you like this person got a
no,
little
no, no.
bit.
I'm not in the habit of analyzing people. You see them only publicly, like you don't know what they are. People
Ah,
make, yeah, people have so many facades now. People have so many facades. Please, today's politics so different. There are not too many people who show the same face everywhere. It depends on the gallery. I remember there was one interview I said, when you're speaking to the Islamic group, then you become very Islamic. You're speaking to the multiracial group, you are the most Malaysian, and so on and so forth. So that kind
but
of,
isn't that politics? Didn't happen in
that
your
should
time?
not be. That should not be. Politics should be about governance for development. That's the way I look at it. I've been in politics for 50 over years. I always was learning from the old people of those days, the ones who fought independence for this country. I saw that they were actually the business of politics, not for themselves, but for the country. They were always talking about what happens if we do this, how the people, they were not even talking about Malays. They were talking about people of the country. That's how I learned, you see? But today, first thing they ask, if I do this, what happened to me? Right? If I do this, what happened to us? Now, if as long as you have the me attitude, the us attitude, then what happened to Malaysians? You don't belong to my party, you don't belong to my group, so you're not in the picture. For God's sake, when you are there, you are governing the whole lot of us. There's no such thing as you and us and me and you. It's us together, Malaysians. Unless you
Uh,
stop talking and thinking like that, you never get. Unless you stop divisively like that, you never get by. You make the wrong
I think
decisions all the time.
the non-existent hair on my head is standing up with after listening to you. You're absolutely correct because, and I will admit this myself. Sometimes when you make a decision, it's like, oh, if I know, like I kind of allow myself, or I see people make decisions that if I make this decision, I'm going to get thrown out of my position, and that seems to be the reason why they don't make the decision or the reason why they make another decision. But how, just logically speaking, yeah, you make a stand, you have a decision, and then you
Yes,
get thrown
correct.
out. How do you change?
Harris, it's got to do with the personal character. It's got to do what's inside of you, the values you hold on to, the principles you adhere to. For me, if I'm doing something that I feel is good for the country, if I have to be sacrificed at some point or other because it's politically unsavory to some people, and they say, oh, she shouldn't be there, fine. Life goes on even by not being a minister, not being politics. I've retired for so long already. It didn't harm me. I'm better off now. I don't have all these things to worry about, right? But
Yeah.
the problem is that the people have to have this short-term view. If I do this, what happens to me? Again, factoring yourself into the equation. If you stop doing that, you did make the right decision. And believe me, if it's the right decision, people will support you.
Wow. I'm in awe of your answer, which leads to I would like to take this question from Sunil Kumar on Facebook. We used to be able to know when we voted for a political party where the party stood in our political landscape. But the current situation of parties forming unheard of alliances just to get into power, the riot feel betrayed and not trusting our future elections. What are your thoughts?
That was what I meant by transactional politics. Let's get together. I'll share this with you. I'll give you this, and you give me this. You know, that kind of transactional politics. Not about governing. It's not about putting your heads together, whether you got hair or not. It does not matter. Not about putting your heads together. What do we do for the country? You may be from the other side. You may be from here, center, right, or whatever. What do we do together for the country? I haven't heard that yet. I haven't heard that yet. It's always, okay, if we do this, our group, how do we stay in power? If you do this, how do we get stronger? I mean, if you factor yourselves in the equation, we'll be having the debate until the year 2030. Never get resolved.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I'm sometimes looking to wake up and to scroll my social media and have someone say something like, here, rather than uh, who should be PM or whatever, more like, you know what, here's what we need to do. If I'm in a position of power, here's what I would do. Here are the results I would look for. Here's how the thing would be better. In fact, if I'm not in power, can someone else please, who's in power, take this on? Like you said, like, what are we doing for the country?
I tell you, Haris, nobody should ever say, if I am in power, if I'm the prime minister, if I'm in charge, then I will do this. That is being very arrogant. No person can actually govern well and effectively with a team, not one team, several teams of people that add value to decision making. And that's when you have people of diverse backgrounds, people with diverse inputs, that can add value to what you're doing. But if you keep everything to yourself, little crony groups there, you're not going. It's inbreeding, It's inbreeding. You're not going to get any inputs on the private sector. Even the private sector, you pick and choose. You're not getting the best with the honesty to tell you what's wrong. And again, it's human nature. Not many people would like to say, hey, for example, Harif, why you have no hair? Nobody wants to say it like that, right? But the problem is that we have to stop this segan tak pasal-pasal, being shy unnecessarily. If A is the wrong thing to do, but B is the right thing, hell, nobody can do any harm to you. But it's better to get it corrected early than done and
Okay.
then
Okay. Yeah, I think we just lost you for a couple of moments there. Wow, I am almost breathless and tired and inspired at the same time listening to you. I know you're very active on Facebook, and do you keep in touch with the people who are in a position to make decisions? So especially now since in the parliament, are you still in touch? Do you still have your fingers in the pie?
not with those in the political arena, but I do get in touch with the bureaucracy, the civil servants, who are by and large always focused on what they're doing. But unfortunately, they're not getting good guidance from those people supposed to guide them. I get in touch. There are complaints. I forward to them, suggestions. Yeah, I do that, but not the
I,
politicians.
I agree with you. I have found, not just recently, but over the last couple of years, that
What's
the
happening
people in
now?
the civil service, if they're left to their own devices, actually get the job done. And it's only when the orang atas datang that they confuse the situation. I don't know how you feel about that. Oh, I think we have just lost you for a while. Oh, okay. Tan Sri, are you there? I'm not sure whether we have. She's frozen on my screen, guys. Is she frozen on your screen? Anyway, everyone, I'm so sorry that I'm just enthralled by what Tan Sri Rafidah Aziz is saying. Maybe, Tan Sri, if you can hear me, maybe you might need to log out and log back in again, because at the moment it seems that your well, you're streaming, you're frozen. I'm not exactly sure. It's frozen, everybody? Am I frozen, guys? Let it go. Okay, so yes, Tan Sri is logging out. Are you back?
Yeah, I've been here. You are the
Okay,
one
yeah,
that's been here.
but you were almost like you were like that Disney movie, Frozen. Let it go, let it go. Okay, where we left off just now was talking about the civil service. I've had great experiences.
Yeah,
Sorry,
now I can see you. I can hear you now. All right, all right.
okay, okay, good.
Okay,
Well,
let me
so
tell
many
you
comments.
this, Haris. Haris,
Yes.
let me just tell you this.
Yeah.
In this new normal of the new environment post-COVID, right? Everything will be more done online than anything else, right? And if this
Okay.
is what a sampling of what we're going to have, the interruptions when you do something online, virtual like this, we're not going to catch up with our neighbors. We're not going to catch up with the other countries. Our internet connection is so bad. And I'm only talking to you. We're only one-on-one. We're not even having a virtual big meeting. You see? That's one example of who's managing this, who's watching this to see is this what's
Well, it's very ironic that as you are talking about the weak internet connection, the internet connection gets weak.
no,
Oh
meaning
my
that,
God.
okay, one more example, right? The new normal. And IT is going to be the foundation of everything, right? Who is looking into the plan, the real master plan, so to speak, moving forward in all sectors of socioeconomic areas, using internet and using anything that has got to do with IT? Who's looking into it? You're talking about modifying school structures, modifying the way education is being delivered at colleges and schools, universities. You talk about even hybrid parliament. Okay, that's parliament, but there's so many things now that's going hybrid. We can talk about it, but is somebody looking at whether or not the system that we have, the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, is up to the mark to allow things to go smoothly? I mean, it's no point having, we go virtual, virtual parliament, virtual everything. Two sentences, all goes black. That's an
Yeah.
example of why we are not managing. That's what I mean by managing.
Uh, I mean, it's absolutely ironic that as you were talking about that The internet was freezing here and then, but you're right. At the end of the day, you mentioned this way earlier in our conversation tonight. It's about eyeball and eyeball. I think you can get so much more done and achieved, given our internet situation is the way it is now. When you are in a room together, and you have that human connection. Internet is great. It's amazing in many ways, but human connection. I'm a bit old school. I feel nothing beats that. And you're right. We need to get ourselves into a state where we can meet.
Yeah, like we are meeting now. I mean, you could have been in the next room, or you may just in front of me. It's the same, right?
Yeah.
Well, why can't you have cabinet meetings like this? Why can't you have cabinet committee meetings like this? Why can't you have the meeting of the MB's conference? I mean, that's what I'm saying. We carry on as usual. Have every meeting that you used to have to with your staff and so on virtual, so that things get done.
Oh wow. I'm sorry. I'm enthralled by all of this. Okay, let's say I'm sorry we're taking so much of your time, but thank you so much for being with us. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Can you? I know you don't like to speculate and you don't like to. Okay, let's say God forbid or God willing, boom, everything is open again tomorrow, as in we can get back to Parliament. What should happen first? What should happen second? And in your opinion, what needs to be done, just so that perhaps the viewers, the followers can put pressure via the social media to get their ministers into action. Parliament is open. What do we need to demand for?
Why on earth are we asking that question 15 months into the pandemic? Why? That question should have been asked 3 months into the pandemic, and we would be now talking about the impact of all the decisions made. As I've said, we are always doing, so right now, let's look at the vaccination first. No two ways about it. That's critical, right? Because the world says that unless you vaccinate a certain number of people, you're not going to have herd immunity or whatever they call it. Okay, get on with that. But even that process has got all the snags. But now I agree with you. The frontliners, the people servicing the rakyat are tip top. I get all the praises, when they reach there. But unfortunately, the vaccines are not going to the people. People still have to come to get the vaccine. You know what I mean? So it is time now we decentralize everything. Go to the smallest villages, the most vulnerable people. Go to the orang asli. Go to the smallest towns where you have facilities, drive-in facility. You can do that. Mobile clinic, so that the immediate vaccination task can be completed soonest, right? But meantime, you don't stop working. While somebody is handling the vaccination and all the ramifications, in parallel, those who have the expertise, those who are in charge of various areas of governance, look into those areas. I mentioned already. The education system, how has it been impacted? How do you then restructure to meet the new norms? And then businesses, please call in the SMEs and learn, let them learn how to do businesses using the IT, so that they're not, being very negatively impacted should another a pandemic occur the next time, and so on. In other words, if every ministry focuses on their own stakeholders within the society, then we'll have a better grip of governance during these crisis times. But I'm not sure whether, people are doing that with so many ministries. We have the biggest cabinet in the world. And yet we don't hear about ministries actually focusing on what they are doing as per their own stakeholders. They have their own clients.
Yeah,
Like that.
I
So if you do it
I do agree.
you have a comprehensive picture.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are certain ministries which, at least as far as I'm concerned, have gone completely blank, or rather silent.
Exactly, precisely. You don't even know who they are now. Forgotten. Are they doing
Why do you
work?
think that is so?
Okay, you ask them. I'm wondering too. If
I
I
can't
know,
put you in a spot. You always throw it back to me.
yeah,
Go ask them lah. Go ask them. Kenapa tak tanya
yeah,
dong?
but I said, why are you not making a noise? See, tell them, why only when provoked you say something. When there's a
Mana
petition you say something, provoke.
provoke eh?
Yeah, provoke baru dapat. Macam mana? Sorry, I'm very skeptical because this is not the first time. I've gone through life with the inflation, very bad inflation of the 70s. And then the oil shock of the late 70s and 80s. And then 1997 crisis. It's not the first time, except that this one was triggered by pandemic. So you have to make sure, handle the pandemic while at the same time handle the management of the pandemic impact. That's what I'm trying to say. Put it in one line. While you handle the pandemic proper, there are so many things that has happened as a result of the pandemic, mostly negative. That has to be managed in parallel. All right? And this is
Yeah.
not being done. Unfortunately, not being done. Announcements are made every week. Today for SMEs, and then the SME Association says that's not right. Today you do this, somebody says, no, we want this. They don't even consult. You see? The stakeholders are not being consulted.
It seems to be a compounding problem, and you are absolutely correct. Why are we dealing with this 15 months on when we should have been dealing with it 3 months in to the
I've aged a
pandemic?
year, I've aged a year since it happened.
I know. We have, but you don't look a year older. I gotta say that. Aya.
I'm not going to be kinder to you for that.
Okay, you know what? Yeah. So let's say, I'm sorry. I think we need to wrap this up sooner or later. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. Why are we talking about this 15-month on when we should be talking about it last year in April, May, June? Okay, so we're in a deep mud right now, and we should have pulled ourselves out earlier. Given those facts, or given those statements, or given those opinions, yeah, do you see any way out of this? Do you see any structure coming in where we can pull ourselves out before it gets too late?
First of all, those people who are there must be committed enough to do what is right. Even if it's going to do damage to them personally or as a group, let it be. If it's good for the country, do it. Don't factor yourselves in. That's basic. Because if you stop talking about yourself in the equation, I tell you, you get see things better. You're more objective, and you're more people oriented. These people oriented statements come out, once in a while, but really it's not happening. It's all politics. Sorry. I always say it's a political emergency.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, yeah, you were around during the first Darurat 1969.
Of course.
So you have the experience of Darurat.
Of course.
I was very young, so I don't remember anything about it. But is this at all a Darurat? What's happening right now compared to 1969?
Well, the way that people are moving around, happily violating SOPs, there's no darurat. The only darurat is a political darurat that we have. The people want to hang on to power, don't want to go back to parliament. And then, of course, as a result, we have this lack of transparency in governance, and decision-making seems to be a little bit more haphazard. The system is not working smoothly.
Wow.
That's the way I look at it.
Why
are you laughing?
God. No, I'm just. I was only expecting to speak to you for 14 minutes, and it's been 70 minutes now, and every single minute has been, if not a lesson, an absolute. I'm almost cheering at some moments. You're absolutely right. Don't do. If I was to walk away this evening with one statement, which is going to stick in my mind, don't factor yourself in.
Into any equation when you have to make a decision. All right, that's important.
That's
not
tough.
factor yourself in when you want to make a decision.
It's tough, though.
Sorry?
It's tough, isn't it?
It's not tough if your principles are such that you put yourself well below the national interest. It's not. It's easy. You know, I like to quote the Rotary Club: nation before self. That's the way it should be. We die tomorrow, we die tonight, but this nation must live on forever. What are we going to live? When you die, what are you going to leave behind? Some, some blankety blanks, some muck.
No,
This is
you're,
it. Yeah. It doesn't matter who's in power. I say the same thing.
yeah.
I don't care.
No, you're absolutely correct because when someone dies, especially now if they die of COVID, number one, their family can't even be with them. But number two, you can't take your cars, your possessions, your
You can't take
whatnot.
anything. You
You
can't
can't
take
take anything.
anything with you, okay? Finish. Period. So why are you greedy? Why this greed for wealth, power, position, and everything else? Why? I don't understand that. Why? Why this ultimate greed that leads people to go to the courts for abusing power? Why this greed for position and whatever else that makes people do things like, usurping authority, going through the back door? I don't understand that either. I would have thought it's nice to go in the nice way, the correct way. As they say, it's not how the applause you get while you're there, it's what happens when you exit. You rather exit with people clapping you out, right? Rather than spitting them at your face when you go out.
Yeah.
I'm
You,
very blunt. I'm very blunt. People just applaud you politely, but when you exit, they say good luck, good riddance. In
you
fact, when you're
know,
still there, they're spitting in your face already. You don't realize it.
the reason why I am as speechless at the moment is because you're absolutely correct. The
I think that's
applause.
the 20th time you're saying that.
No, no. The few times that I've met you, I've always been speechless in your presence. But when you talk about people, the applause you get when you leave is more important than the applause you get when you arrive. Only because let's talk about death for a moment. When you die, the only thing left is what how they speak of you, how they remember you, what they remember of you, not
Right.
necessarily what cars you had or what mansions you built, but what type of person you were, not necessarily what you built,
But
but
let me,
what
yeah.
you but the
Not
person you
even
were.
what type of person. No, no. If you are in a position of authority, people will say, now what he or she do for this country, for the people while he or she was in that position? That's what they will be asking. You know, I always say that no human being is perfect. It's wrong to say everybody, I can be 100%. No, I always say let's go by the 70-30 rule. Being a human, we are weak. We are puny humans with all our weaknesses, right? But there are standards that enable us to be 70% good, 30% not so good. For as long as the 70% is the good, you get by, right? But if you are 70% no good, well, nobody can help you.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Tan Sri, I think you have really, number one, you've opened my eyes. You've opened my thoughts as well. I'm going to walk away from this really really treasuring what you've spoken about. Um, Before you go, I want to thank you very much again. But before you go, you seem to have so much energy. You seem to still, you know what I'm going to say. You seem to still care. Where I get it that a lot of people don't care, and by these, when I say a lot of people, I mean people currently in positions of power seem not to care. You still seem to care a lot. Uh, why do you care?
Anyways, I spent 50 years plus of my 78 years in government, right? Politics, and then a little bit later in government. So it's a long time. And in my small little way, I did help with a bigger team to lay the little bricks, to make this foundation of this country strong, building up from what was left to us post independence and so on, right? And we were growing very well. We were the emerging tigers. We were the East Asian tiger. You name it. We have all these things that were branded on us, all very positive. To see these things slide, we're not only sliding down, but backwards. We're being left behind by those neighbors who 10 years ago were nowhere. Now, that makes me sad. Why not? Why shouldn't I not care? This is my country. I'm a Malaysian. Anything that brings shame to my country brings shame to all of us as Malaysians. Anything that goes wrong with our country, Malaysia, has an impact on us as Malaysians, right? Maybe the degree of impact is different, but impact there will be. So we must care. We must care. This is our country. I don't understand. We have to care. If we don't care, maybe people are getting the impression they don't mind, they don't care. Let's do this the way we want to do it. Maybe some people have got that idea because people are saying, I think they don't care. It's okay. Give them this $50, $300, free money, that they stop caring. That won't do. People care from inside. They're talking about themselves, their children, and the future. Because the future starts now. If you erode the foundation that we have now, the future is going to be not as bright as we saw it before. That's the way I look at it. Like the house, right? If you allow the house, the foundation to be broken, you allow all the termites to come in, yeah, it'll be too late to save the house already. That's what I'm trying to say.
And on that note, I agree. This house that we call Malaysia, and you've been around a lot longer than I have, and I've been around a bit longer than some of the people who are watching right now. That is actually the reason I also care, because I do remember your time when you were in the government as well, during my late father's time as well, and I could see the care in my late father as well, my late parents, and I still care in that way, because you're right. This is our house, and the longer we let the termites eat away the foundation, we will be
There's no
sliding.
house left. We have no house left. We only have a toilet.
As long as we don't leave that door open.
Oh, it's open all the time. No, but seriously, it's time we take stock. Malaysia should take stock now, of where we want this country to go. Which way do we want to go? But first, be united. I'm urging all Malaysians. Doesn't matter what race, creed, religion, faith you are, gender. Let's be united as Malaysians, and let's help to chart the course forward together. Add value to decision making at all levels. And if the government cannot do it well, you have recourse later on. They have to go back to the people, right, for the votes. I'm not urging them to vote anyone out. I'm just saying every person who is a voter has a right. You kicked out the Barisan Nasional the last time. So I'm just saying, don't grumble, don't get into a tantrum. Just be united. Don't let outsiders, don't let extraneous elements break us up. And let's not ourselves bring divisiveness, by commenting on religion, commenting on race, gender, and so on. Sometimes we bring in our own problems. We inflict our own problems in this country. So stop talking divisive, stop talking fractiousness. Let's think as Malaysians. And Malaysia has a bright future, provided it is governed better than it is now, governed well. So the systems are there, but let us not allow this to go on being eroded. If we do, well, we suffer. The young ones will suffer.
Just your words. Let's stop talking division. Let's stop dividing everyone.
Yeah.
Let's talk about cohesion. Let's talk about working together. Let's talk about Malaysia. Tan Sri Rafidah Aziz, Malaysian citizen. It has been my absolute absolute honor to speak to you. Guys, is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap this up, Tan Sri?
Yeah, just I would like to say to the public, right? While the government and the machinery, the Ministry of Health and so on is trying to do its best to get people vaccinated, their SOPs in place, I would like to urge the public, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're number one up there, you're just the marhain, so to speak, at the grassroots, it doesn't matter your level in society. Let us all abide by what the SOPs are so that we can contain this infection and get the pandemic sorted out. To me, that's important now. No point talking all this pedantic stuff, policies and so on, when even this one thing, vaccination, you cannot get it done well. Let's not have it creeping up.
Wow, yeah. It's been, I'm loving the fire, I'm loving the energy. Thank you so much, Tan Sri Rafidah. Just before you go, just a personal opinion. Are you aware of the little recent 48-hour furor over the statement and the feedback on this Professor Mohaya and the statement about women should be bodoh-bodoh because that's...
No, that must be her personal opinion. She needed to be bodoh-bodoh, let her be lah. I don't think my late husband wanted a bodoh wife lah. Would you like a bodoh wife? Would like Jasmine to be bodoh-bodoh? Would you like to?
No.
Okay. Enough said. We don't like the bodoh-bodoh men. I'm sure men don't like bodoh-bodoh wives either. Okay? Enough said.
You're absolutely correct.
So better thing to think about. So let the bodoh people be by themselves.
100% agreed. Boom. You have just let the bodoh people play among themselves. Tan Sri Rafidah, thank you so much for spending this hour and 20 minutes with us. It has been my absolute pleasure. I do hope you and your family are safe and well. And I really look forward to reading all your Facebook comments coming up soon. So thank you again, and much love to you and your family. Thank you for spending the time with us.
Yeah, and my regards to you and Jasmine and family too. And to everybody, stay safe and take care.
Thank you. I'm just going to let you out of the studio, and thank you again. I'm speechless. You have made my week. You have made my month. You have made my year. Thank you. Good night, Tan Sri.
Bye.
Oh my gosh! What a fireball! What an iron lady! That has got to be absolutely one of my favorite conversations that I've had on what's going on Malaysia. Guys, I'm so sorry I could not get to your comments, didn't get to your questions because you guys were listening to her. She's absolutely amazing, crazy engagement. Thank you so much. I hope you have been sharing this Facebook post. I hope YouTube. Thank you so much on YouTube. You guys have been absolutely amazing as well. My soul is awake right now. With all the bullshit that's been going on, I feel re-energized, and I feel absolutely, this is crazy. I'm feeling like, you know what? Not just I can make a difference. I think everyone here can make a difference. Everyone has the power to make a difference. Keep on talking about it. Keep on discussing. Keep on putting your words forward, your thoughts forward. And yes, let the bodoh people fight among themselves. So once again, thank you for watching What's Going On Malaysia. Oh, why was I so speechless? People were asking me, dude, the woman freaks me out. Tan Sri Rafidah is scary, but one of the most beautifully strong and heartfelt persons I've ever met. I haven't met her that many times for this extent. But sometimes you're in a room or in a conversation with someone, and every word that's coming out of her mouth is absolute gold. You're like, I'm not going to stop this gold coming out. You keep talking, and that's how I felt sometimes. And she also reminds me of my late mother as well. So thank you again for watching What's Going On Malaysia. Thank you, YouTube. I'm going to try and answer some of the questions that have come up. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I don't know how I'm going to top this show. Let me know who else you want to see on the show. Thank you very much, Tan Sri Rafidah, once again. This has been a real eye-opener, and I hope that she has inspired you as much as she has inspired me. I will see you guys real soon. Thank you for spending this night with me on a Friday. And yeah, keep a lookout on my social media because I will be talking or responding to the big controversy, or not, just a small controversy of the whole border thing and the attacks on social media. So guys, terima kasih, assalamualaikum, and once again, what's going on, Malaysia? Well, what's going on is that there is still hope for this nation as long as we don't focus on what's in it for me and think about what's in it for Malaysia. Thank you. Good night. Assalamualaikum. Thank you for sharing this Facebook post. Good night.